Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to episode number 9 of The Rundown. Already up to episode 9. How about that? Anyways, for those of you who this is your first time ever watching this show, it's basically a movie news show that I do every other day, or I try to do it every other day. It doesn't always work out. But I do it live, and I talk about the happenings in the world of movies. It's very different from everything else we do on this channel. Most other stuff is like reviews, opinion-based stuff, yada, yada, yada. This is straightforward. It's news. I throw my insight in there, but that's basically how the show works. So today, actually, we have a jam-packed show here. Well, maybe not jam-packed in the show, but at least as far as movie news goes. So there is a lot of stuff that dropped, a lot of stuff that just dropped that I maybe didn't include in my show notes, such as, David Ayer has just left Scarface. If you want to know more about that, you can go to our website, menversusmovies.com, and check out a written article that we have on the topic. I just literally found out about it before going live, so wasn't able to include it in my show notes here. But today we're talking about a lot of great topics. There are a bunch of new pictures that just dropped from Entertainment Weekly in regards to Black Panther. We also get a little bit more in terms of what the film is actually going to be about. Yada, 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 all that good stuff. We also, Suicide Squad 2. If you click the title, if you click the video, obviously it's in the title. Suicide Squad 2 has a new frontrunner to direct. We'll discuss that shortly. But the first topic for today has to do with a man that I am very, very fond of in this industry, and that is Mr. Quentin Tarantino. So, Quentin Tarantino, for those of you who don't know, for maybe like the past year or so, has kind of been saying, he's like, you know what, I'm going to do 2 movies, and then I'm retiring. That's it. Done. 10 movies. Which is kind of depressing for the rest of us, because this is Quentin Tarantino. We want him to continue making original, kind of quirky, eclectic films that are just so well written. But yeah, anyway, so he's been saying that. So his next project which will be his second to last project. Some new information regarding it has leaked on what exactly it's going to be about, or its topic, if you will. So according to The Hollywood Reporter, Tarantino's next film will focus on the Charles Manson family murders, and more specifically, the murder of actress Sharon Tate in 1969. Obviously, if you know about the Manson murders, you know about that specific murder. That was director Roman Polanski's wife at the time. Anyways, it was first reported that Brad Pitt and Jennifer Lawrence were being eyed for leading roles in the film. However, there's been a little bit development in this thing, and the story has changed just a bit. So Deadline is claiming that Pitt is being courted for the role of the detective investigating the murder, while Variety's Justin Kroll is stating that the Inglourious Basterds star is being looked at for the role of the prosecutor during the Manson trials, which is very interesting, because if Variety happens to be correct on here, that means that Tarantino's film is going to be covering a very large chunk of time, probably similar to the way that David Fincher's Zodiac did. Large chunk of time that will be spent, and I mean that should come as no surprise for any of you who are familiar with Tarantino's films. They tend to be long. There's a lot tends to go on in them, so the length of the film really won't come as much of a surprise. But it is interesting to note that, because once again, it's a large chunk of time there to cover. So this is also interesting because there might, however, be some conflict in regards to Pitt. Tarantino wants to begin shooting in, I believe, the summer of 2018, and that just happens to be very inconvenient for Mr. Brad Pitt, because he will be in the midst of production on David Fincher's World War Z 2. So we'll see how that one kind of shakes out. Honestly, the sooner we get a Tarantino film, the better. So if he can start shooting in 2018 and he can lock Brad Pitt down, and Brad Pitt's doing World War Z 2 and this Manson murder film, I'm all for it. Personally, I'd rather see him do Tarantino's film over World War Z 2, but that's just because I'm not too keen on a sequel to that film, or at least I'm not too keen on having Fincher spend time work on World War Z 2 simply because I want him to do original things, because that's where I feel like he succeeds. Looking at you, Alien 3, even though that was not Fincher's fault. But regardless, a little bit of a tangent there. As for Jennifer Lawrence, one might assume that she would be playing the famed actress Sharon Tate herself. However, that is not the case. According to Deadline, Tarantino has actually been in talks with Aussie superstar Margot Robbie in regards for that role, who I actually personally like better for that. I feel like, the past couple years, Margot Robbie has really showed that she is a powerhouse talent. And so I think locking her down for this role might give her another opportunity to show what she's capable of. So I definitely dig that. I think that I would prefer to see her given the chance as opposed to Jennifer Lawrence, simply because Jennifer Lawrence seems to be a little bit oversaturated as of late. She's literally in everything. I mean, she's like Hollywood's like angel right now or whatever. So given the opportunity to see Margot Robbie in the role, I like it. I like where Mr. Tarantino's heading. So it should also be noted that frequent collaborator Samuel L. Jackson will also have a pivotal / leading role in the film, which comes honestly as no surprise, because Samuel L. Jackson tends to pop up in a lot of Tarantino films. Obviously, he was in The Hateful Eight, Django, Pulp Fiction, you name it. He tends to pop up in these movies, but once again, it's excuse me. It's pretty cool just to know that he's going to be in it and that he's going to have a leading role. That's interesting. So who knows? So that's all I got there regarding Tarantino's next project. I think this is absolutely incredibly interesting. It's unlike anything we've really ever seen from Tarantino, because he has a tendency to do period pieces and then mess with it a little bit. I mean, you look at something like in Inglourious Basterds. You thought it would be like a straightforward kind of movie, and then you see the film, and you see the way that movie endings. I'm not going to give away any spoilers for those of you who haven't seen Inglourious Basterds. Needless to say, he tempers with history a little bit. It's not historically accurate. So I'm curious to see whether this movie might get some of that spin, whether it'll kind of be in like an alternate kind of universe type thing, or if he's going to go straight at this with a biopic, which would be very, very different from anything that we've seen from Tarantino. Just look at his repertoire of movies. But all that aside, this does get me very excited because, once again, it's a Tarantino project. You know it's going to be absolutely phenomenal. Number two, it's about something that's very weird, horrible, and interesting at the same time. And then once again, being able to have someone like Tarantino tackle this source material is just, it's rich. It's good stuff. So I'm very much looking forward to this. How about you guys? What do you think? Are you looking forward to Tarantino take on the story regarding the Charles Manson family murders, or would you rather see him, maybe do another Western or something like that? He's got 2 films left. One of them is this. The other is yet to be determined. So who knows? Leave your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below or in the chat board if you're watching me live. And hello, Armand. See you there. Yes, Margot Robbie is dope. That is 100% accurate. All right, so moving on to the next topic here. Like I mentioned at the beginning, it has to deal with Suicide Squad 2. So, Deadline is reporting that Nonstop and The Shallow's director, Jamais Colette Serra, is the front runner to direct the sequel to last year's commercially successful Suicide Squad. Early reports indicated that Mel Gibson was being heavily looked at to helm the project. However, it appears that this is not the case anymore, and honestly, that's a little bit disappointing. For one, when I heard that Mel Gibson was being looked at to do this film, I was stoked out of my mind. First of all, Mel Gibson, regardless of what you think of him in his personal life, he's one of the best directors working today. Just look at a film like Hacksaw Ridge. that film was mind-blowing. It absolutely blew me away. The action sequences were so brutal. It told such an inspiring and heroic story. Obviously, it got Andrew Garfield the acting nomination. And I mean, I could talk about Hacksaw Ridge forever, but it goes without saying that Mel Gibson knows how to direct movies and knows how to, put some edge to stuff. So seeing him tackle something like Suicide Squad is interesting because it means we would definitely get a different take on it, because Mel Gibson is, first of all, someone who's not necessarily familiar with the comics, so he would probably have to familiarize himself with it. And then also taking his grit, his intensity, his edginess, and applying it to Suicide Squad makes sense. This is a group of ragtag criminals who are being used to fight other worse criminals. So giving that some edge and maybe an R rating, I was all on board for that. I think this is exactly the kind of decision that Warner Brothers and the DC Extended Universe need to be making in locking down someone like Mel Gibson. However, that's not the case, and they went for someone far less superior. No, nothing personal to Mr. Colette Serra here. I mean, I enjoyed last year's The Shallows. I actually found it to be a fairly enjoyable shark film. It had the right tension, the right suspense. Blake Lively, I thought, was fantastic in the movie. And all around, I mean, it was basically what I expected from it, which was a edge-of-your-seat shark thriller. So I was impressed with him on that. Nonstop is another, just generic run-of-the-mill action movie that is interesting and kind of fun to watch. I didn't hate it, but it certainly wasn't anything like new or mind-blowing, which, I mean, I guess not every movie has to. But then you go back and you look at some of the other movies that this guy has done. He did the 2005 remake of House of Wax with Paris Hilton. What? Wow, that is not a good movie. If you have never seen House of Wax, it is not a good movie. However, he did direct 2009's Orphan, which was significantly better than House of Wax, and I found enjoyment out of it. I mean, once again, I wasn't like jumping out of my seat like ecstatic about the movie, but it was still fairly interesting, so I gotta give him props there. He also did a film called Unknown, which also starred Liam Neeson. I think this was the first of their collaborations. Unknown was okay. It was just really boring and honestly very forgettable. He also did a film called Run All Night with Liam Neeson. Once again, very generic. It was entertaining, but once again, it just wasn't anything spectacular, which is kind of disappointing in regards to this guy's repertoire of films here. He's made like some decent movies, but he's really never made something that's like, wow, that was really, really good. And so it gets me a little concerned for Suicide Squad, because you look at the first one, and that movie had so many issues with it, and I just feel like they had a director like David Ayer on there. Obviously, there was some stuff that went down behind the scenes. Ayer had one vision and cut of the film. They went to a trailer house. They gave him another cut, and I guess what we got was some combination of the two. But the movie was not that good, at least in my opinion. I know it has its fans out there, but upon rewatch and just thinking about it, it really was not that good. However, it did well commercially, so that's obviously why it's getting a sequel. So if they're trying to improve upon what they were doing in the first one, I feel like they would probably want to go after someone else who at least has a proven track record. I mean, granted, David Ayer had a proven track record, and he kind of butchered this film, although it's not entirely his fault. So I would say maybe with Warner Brothers and DC's new mentality on how they want to continue working with directors, obviously coming off the success of Wonder Woman, if they were to lock down a director like Mel Gibson or someone who at least has a proven track record, I think that progress could be made in improving the Suicide Squad film. I just don't think that is Jaume Colette Serra. So unfortunately, he's the front runner for right now. I could be dead wrong. The movie could come out and it could be great, but as of right now, I'm not the biggest fan of this choice. But how about you guys? What do you guys think of this directing choice? Do you dig it? Am I crazy? is this the route that maybe Warner Brothers and DC needs to go in order to get this the Suicide Squad franchise back on track? Leave your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below or in the chat board if you're watching me live. All right, moving on to another topic, which is basically the headlining topic of today. New pictures from Black Panther. Getting me super amped. Obviously, next week is Comic-Con, so we're going to be getting a definite in-depth look at the film there. Cannot wait for that. Hopefully, they drop another trailer or something. They'll drop something, but next week at Comic-Con, Black Panther and Thor Ragnarok are going to be highlighted. So I guess this is a little preview. An in-depth look at the upcoming Black Panther has been released per Entertainment Weekly, and the highlights include the following. First of all, if you haven't, before I go into the highlights, or at least my personal highlights, if you haven't taken a look at these pictures, you really, really should, because they showcase the world of Wakanda perfectly. Some characters that we haven't seen yet, they give us a little bit more in-depth looks, such as Forrest Whitaker's character, Lupita Nyong'o's character, Michael B. Jordan's character, and so forth. And we learn a little bit about who they're playing in the film, because let's be honest, we don't really know a whole lot about what this movie is about or who these characters are particularly, unless you are very, very familiar with Black Panther lore, which if you are, hey, good on you. All right, so some of the highlights include Forrest Whitaker as Zuri. He's a shaman and a trusted advisor, described as somewhat religious or a spiritual figure by Ryan Coogler himself, who is, of course, the director. I'm probably going to butcher this next one, but some of the other pictures showcase the Dora Milaje, or Milaje, or I don't really know how to say that. We'll find out in the film, I guess. Anyways, they are Wakanda's all-female special forces team led by Okio, which is Danani Gurira. Excuse me, I'm butchering these names. With undercover operative Nakia Lupita Nyong'o and the king's personal guard Ao Florence Kasumba. The Dora Milaje not only protect the king, but they also hunt down enemies of Wakanda across the world. This is really, really cool, because it's not your typical run-of-the-mill special forces team. First of all, it's an all-female special forces team, so that's just badass right there. We saw a little bit of them in Civil War. If you remember when Black Widow went to go recruit Black Panther, you saw some of his bodyguards there, which I'm assuming were the Dora Milaje, or Milaje, or what. I'm going to struggle with pronouncing this, but anyways, you saw a little bit of them there, so hopefully we get to see a lot more of them in the film, and by these pictures, it looks like we're going to. So I'm all behind that. I like all the pictures. Definitely go look at the pictures of them in particular. They look like some badass women, and unlike anything we've ever seen in the Marvel Cinematic Universe before. The next highlight here, is Michael B. Jordan's character. He is playing I guess you could kind of consider him the villain in the film, but we get a little bit more of a look at him. His character's name is Killmonger. And basically, I guess he's done some wrong things in Wakanda, and he's kind of been exiled as a result. So, getting a little bit more of a look at him, it looks like him and T'Challa are going to duel. There's a picture of them dueling there and stuff like that. It looks interesting. It also shows off the weapons and stuff like that. I mean, really, it's just a much more in-depth look at the world, and we see a lot more than what we just got in that little, like, almost 2-minute trailer. So I really dug that. We see more of Martin Freeman as Everett Ross, and then my personal favorite, oh gosh, I can't remember. Andy Serkis. Andy Serkis as Claw. Really curious as to what kind of a role he's going to be playing in the film. I don't know if he'll be the main villain, but he's definitely going to show up and make an appearance. And this also should be noted that in this spread by Entertainment Weekly, they talk about some plot points. Obviously, the film is going to deal with the aftermath of King T'Chaka's death, and it's going to deal with a lot about how T'Challa is going to figure out how to become the rightful king of Wakanda, which makes sense. So I'm very curious as to seeing that. But the next part here is what really intrigues me. Apparently, the film is going to have an operatic drama feel similar to that of The Godfather, mixed with international espionage similar to that of the James Bond films. That You sold me there. You absolutely sold me there, because me not knowing a whole lot about Black Panther and just getting this brief look at the trailer, you throw that as what the film is going to essentially feel like and how it's going to kind of play out. I'm buying my ticket first day. I mean, that sounds so incredibly interesting, and unlike anything. I've said this a few times in regards to some of the other Marvel movies, but this is truly unlike anything we have ever seen in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So I like the fact that they're taking risks here, that they're going places we haven't seen before. Obviously, if you read this article, Kevin Feige goes on and he says something like, there's just so much rich mythology and lore that surrounds Black Panther that honestly we could have made like 12 movies about stuff that happens in Wakanda. So having that kind of richness in the mythology of Black Panther is really going to lend itself well to the film, and it gets me so amped for it. I can't wait for next week to see what we get from Black Panther. How about you guys? Have you seen these pictures? What do you think about it? Let me know in the comment section below or in the chat board if you're watching me live. This is just really, really cool stuff. I think this is going to be a winner here for Marvel. Absolutely. You dig it? Movies coming out so soon after. Yeah, that's true. That's true. They're like back to back, like boom, boom, boom. And that's the way Marvel does it. I dig it. Anyways, moving on to the next topic here. And it's the last topic of the day. I know. We have already been going for how long have I been going here for? Probably around like 25 minutes. This is a longer show than usual, although not longer than the show I did a couple days ago. Anyways, moving on to the final topic here. And this might be my personal favorite piece of news that has dropped. This one did just drop today. If you're watching this, today is Wednesday, and it has to deal with Martin Scorsese's The Irishman. So, according to Deadline, after much pleading and pestering, and, apparently Joe Pesci has been asked over like 50 times if you want to be a part of Martin Scorsese's The Irishman. Well, pestering and pleading for over 50 times finally lent itself to Joe Pesci's official casting to be in Martin Scorsese's mob film, The Irishman. Thank you. This is just awesome news. He's going to portray Russell Bufalino, excuse me, I was reading that wrong. He's a mafia boss out of Pennsylvania who has been long suspected of having a hand in the Hoffa's disappearance. I'll tell you who Hoffa is in a second. Hoffa's disappearance. Pesci and Scorsese have done 3 films together, and I believe the last time that they collaborated was in Scorsese's film Casino. I mean, it's been like a 30-year or some gap there since we've seen Joe Pesci and Martin Scorsese collaborate, and they're finally going to be back on screen doing their thing together, and it makes me so happy because I honestly don't even remember the last time I saw Joe Pesci in a film. He was like such an iconic mob character actor back in the day, and it's so great to see him return to what made him such an awesome actor. Anyways, so yeah, The Irishman will tell the story about a member of the mob who may have had a connection in the murder of Jimmy Hoffa. Al Pacino is going to be in this movie. He is slated to play Hoffa, and Robert De Niro is going to be playing the Irishman himself. Like I said, aside from Robert De Niro and Al Pacino, who are also going to be in this film with huge, huge roles, which, by the way, Al Pacino has never done a film with Martin Scorsese. So if you want to get even more excited for this film, there's that. But other names involved in the project are Bobby Cannavale, Harvey Keitel, and now Mr. Joe Pesci. There we go. And yeah, the film is being produced by Netflix, and it's going to be online, obviously, but then it's also going to have a small theatrical run as well. I can't just express how excited I am for this film. First of all, Martin Scorsese is one of my favorite directors of all time, probably in the top 3. I think the man makes incredible pictures. And first of all, he's going back to what he does best, and that is mob films. I mean, you want to talk about a guy who just kills it at one specific genre. Martin Scorsese and mob films go hand in hand. And so this will be the first mob film, I believe, since The Departed that Scorsese will have made. Gets me excited. I really wish that the movie was getting a large theatrical release, but unfortunately, with Silence not doing too well at the box office, I think that kind of caused Scorsese to go through the Netflix route, and it's sad that a filmmaker like Scorsese has to do that, because the talent and the quality of his work should speak for itself, but unfortunately, in this day and age, it doesn't necessarily equate to selling movie tickets, but regardless, you should all be excited for this. You should all be excited to see Joe Pesci and Scorsese collaborate again. Anyways, what do you think about this? Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments section below. I'd love to hear from you regarding this. Are you as excited as me to finally see Joe Pesci back on screen in a Martin Scorsese film? Yeah, or leave it in the chat board if you're watching me live. And with that, guys, that is going to conclude our show today. Those are all the topics here. So let me know what you thought of this. And do you dig this live movie news show? Thoughts and opinions, like I've said for everything, in the comments section. And also, while you're down there, be sure to like this video, share it with all of your friends, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more movie reviews, more of this show. We've got some previous episodes you can check out, but then we've also got other movie-related content that we post. And there's stuff there for everyone. So there, if you look around, you'll be able to find something. And then you can also go to menversusmovies.com and check out some written content we have. We post news articles daily, such as some of the ones that I covered here on the show, but then some of the ones that maybe I haven't covered. Who knows? You can check all that stuff out. We post daily that stuff, and then daily editorials, all that good stuff on menversusmovies.com. And then you can also like Men vs. Movies on Facebook and follow us on Twitter simply by searching Men v Movies. And lastly, guys, if you like me specifically and you like what I have to say, you can always give me a follow on Twitter at Griff Schiller. All right, that is going to do it for this episode of The Rundown. Thank you for joining me, and thank you for watching. Until next time, take care.